Have you ever wondered what would happen if a dog and a panther became best friends? It sounds impossible, right? Well, get ready to be amazed by the incredible true story of Leo and Shadow. The desert sun spilled over the wide expanse of golden grass, shimmering with the quiet heat of early afternoon. Out there, where horizons stretched forever and silence pressed against the earth, an unlikely friendship was being written into the dust. A dog named Leo stood on his hind legs, front paws pressed together as though in prayer, gazing up at the sleek black figure before him. The figure was no ordinary companion, it was a black panther, its muscles rippling like shadows beneath its fur, eyes burning like amber lanterns in the vast wilderness. How the two had come together was a story that began months earlier, in a storm that nearly ended them both. Leo had been astray for most of his life. Born in a small desert village, he had once belonged to a family, but hardship forced them to move away, leaving him behind. From that day, he wandered through dust, hunger, and loneliness, learning to survive on scraps and instinct. One evening, a sandstorm swept across the land. Wind howled like an angry spirit, sand scouring skin and choking lungs. Leo, small and weary, pressed against the base of a broken fence for shelter, his heart pounding with fear. That was when he heard the low, broken cry of another creature struggling in the storm. Driven by curiosity or perhaps the strange pull of compassion, Leo crawled toward the sound. Beneath a battered tree, half buried in the sand, lay a panther cub. She was thin, trembling, her paw tangled in an old hunter's snare. Leo froze. Instinct screamed at him to flee. This was a predator, one of the fiercest hunters of the wild. But when the cub's eyes met his wide, pleading, streaked with pain, something inside, Leo shifted. Ignoring his fear, he tugged at the rope with his teeth until the cub was free. She collapsed beside him, too weak to move. Leo curled around her small body, shielding her from the storm, licking the sand from her face. All night, he stayed there, refusing to leave. By morning, the storm had passed, but a bond had been born. Leo named her Shadow, though she never knew the name. To him, she was simply his. He led her to water, brought her scraps of food stolen from the village outskirts, and guarded her while she slept. Shadow grew quickly. From a frail cub, she transformed into a powerful predator, her sleek frame blending with the desert nights. Yet despite her wild blood, she never harmed Leo. He had become her family, the only creature who had shown her kindness. The world offered only cruelty. The villagers noticed the black figure that sometimes prowled the distant ridges. Whispers spread of a ghost cat, haunting the desert. Some wanted her killed. But no one dared approach the shadows where she roamed, for always at her side was a small yellow dog whose bravery baffled them. Their friendship was not simple. Shadow's instincts often surged. She would stalk lizards with deadly silence, muscles coiled to strike, while Leo barked in protest, urging her back to him. At times she would growl low, frustrated by his interference. Yet when he looked at her with those loyal brown eyes, her anger melted into calm. They developed a language of their own silent gestures, subtle looks, the rhythm of companionship. Leo's tail wag, Shadow's flick of an ear, a playful bow, a gentle nudge. In the evenings, when the desert cooled, Leo would dance around her, leaping on hind legs, paws pressed together as though begging her for play. Shadow, regal and aloof, would pretend indifference until suddenly she'd spring forward, and the two would chase each other across the golden grass until the stars came out. In those moments, predator and prey disappeared. They were simply friends. But the desert was merciless. One dry season stretched long, waterholes shrinking to muddy pits. Prey grew scarce. Shadow, desperate, prowled closer to the village. The villagers panicked. One evening, a hunter's bullet whistled through the air, grazing her flank. She fled into the dunes, limping, bleeding. Leo followed, frantic. He pressed against her wound, whining, licking, urging her to stay awake. For 3 nights, he guarded her, bringing her what little food he could find, even chasing away vultures that circled overhead. Shadow survived. But Leo bore scars of exhaustion. His once plump frame grew thin, his paws raw from running. Yet never once did he leave her side. The desert had hardened them both, but their bond only deepened. Seasons passed. Shadow grew into a magnificent adult panther, muscles sculpted by survival, eyes glowing with wisdom. Leo aged to his muzzle touched with gray, his steps slower. One day, while wandering near the edge of the desert, they stumbled upon a group of children playing. The children froze, staring at the giant cat. Shadow's tail flicked, her body tensing, instincts ready to strike. Leo saw the danger in her posture. Without hesitation, he leaped before her, standing tall on hind legs, paws pressed together as though begging. His eyes pleaded, "Not them, please." Something miraculous happened. Shadow relaxed, her ears lowered, her gaze softened. She stepped back, allowing the children to retreat safely. For the first time, she had chosen restraint not because of fear, but because of Leo's silent request. From that day, the villagers' whispers changed. No longer did they speak of a ghost cat. They spoke of a miracle, how a small dog tamed the wild heart of a panther. Years later, Leo grew frail. His body, once restless and strong, could no longer keep pace with Shadow's agile stride. One morning, he struggled to rise, collapsing onto the warm earth. Shadow nudged him, whining softly, circling him with desperate eyes. For hours she stayed by his side, pressing her body close, as though willing her strength into his. Leo lifted his head one last time, gazed into her golden eyes, and gave a final wag of his tail. His paws pressed together, just as they had the first time he'd begged her to play. Then he rested his head and drifted into the quiet beyond. Shadow lay beside him long into the night, her mournful cry echoing across the desert. The next morning, villagers found her there silent, grieving. None dared approach. They watched from afar as the great panther stood tall, gazed at the horizon, and walked back into the wilderness, leaving behind the only creature who had ever been her family. The villagers buried Leo beneath the shade of an old acacia tree. On the mound, they placed a simple marker. He tamed the wild with love, but the story did not end there. From time to time, when the desert wind blew just right, people claimed they saw her shadow, the Black Panther, standing near the grave. She never lingered, never approached the village, but always came at dusk, watching silently before vanishing back into the wild. And so the legend grew not of a ghost cat, nor of a dangerous predator, but of a friendship that defied the laws of nature. A story of how one small stray dog and one mighty panther proved that love could bridge even the widest divides. Years later, children would still gather beneath the acacia tree, listening to elders tell the tale. They would laugh at the image of the tiny dog begging a panther for play, their hearts warmed by the memory of Leo's courage. And as the stars blanketed the desert sky, some swore they could hear it, the faint echo of paws running together. Dog and panther forever bound in the silent bond of friendship,